Today, Jake Ybarra releases his debut album. It's titled Something in the Water. At age 25, Jake proves to be an accomplished songwriter and a gifted performer. We spoke to Jake to find out how he's feeling about releasing his first album.
She came home from Oklahoma, and what was like that late November. The trees all look like scarecrows in the spring.
I'm feeling good about it. I'm feeling really good about it, and it's doing well on radio so far, and I'm excited about seeing how people like it. So,
right, yeah. So it's your first album. You had a little EP before that. So it's called Something in the Water. Rather, I can't read my own writing.
Yeah, no worries. Something in the Water. Yeah. No worries.
So when did it start coming together as an album for you? I assume it started with a bunch of songs laying around somewhere.
It did, yeah. I mean, this is definitely a case of having these songs for a couple years. I didn't really write for the project. I just had these songs. I knew I wanted them to be on an album. Yep. And, picked the 10 kind of from, 20, 25 demos, and then just kind of picked from there, and was happy with how it turned out.
Yeah. So you recorded it in Nashville, right? With a producer named William Gawley. So
yep, Will Gawley. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Tell me how he contributed to the process.
Oh yeah, I mean, he was. I had a sound in my head to a degree. Like, I generally knew what I wanted things to sound like, but I never could have imagined how it ended up sounding, and that was Will, and the guys that played on the record, and just kind of bringing it to life. And they're my songs, they're my lyrics and melodies, but having those guys working on it, I mean, brought it to life, and it would not have sounded as good as it sounds without them. Right.
So what kind of sounds did you have in your head going into that?
Oh, going into it, honestly, I heard fiddle, and there's no fiddle on the record, right. And I'm happy with it. I'm super happy that there's no fiddle on the record, and I heard dobro, and there's a little bit on there, but I'm happy that we went in the direction we did, because I think it would have ended up sounding good. It would have sounded okay, but I don't think it would have sounded like it does.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So from what I've read, you kind of were into baseball quite a bit, and then something happened, and that you changed course and became a songwriter. Tell me what the backstory is there.
Yeah, I grew up playing baseball. My parents and grandparents were very serious about us being well-rounded. So like, they had us in music and singing and choirs, but I wasn't super into it.
Right.
I was playing baseball and had to quit when I was probably, I guess, like a sophomore, junior in high school for some health reasons, and then needed something else to just completely dive into.
Right.
Because I was pretty serious about it.
What position did you play?
I played third base, but I mostly pitched. I couldn't really hit very well, so I pitched more than anything.
There you go.
Yeah, I could throw pretty hard, so that helped. But yeah, and then I needed something to dive into, and that was guitar.
Right.
And I learning it, and I started taking lessons and became obsessed with it. I mean, I just stayed in my room all day playing guitar.
Right.
The songwriting didn't really come till a few years later when I was in college. And I kind of tell people, like, guitar was definitely my first music love, but songwriting is going to be the lasting one, I think.
Yeah. So how does one come about the idea or the realization that you can write songs? Because to me, it's like magic.
Oh, it was a lot of trial and error. I played in bands when I was in high school, but it was mostly just kind of writing filler lyrics to get to the next guitar solo.
Right.
And then, I got into the writing and got into listening to songwriters in the same way that I'd gotten into listening to guitar players. And I didn't really try to write a song for a while. And then I wrote a couple and threw them out, and just to kind of try my hand at it. And then after about 50, maybe, or more than that, I finally was like, man, this is pretty good. I'd listen to this. And even that one is probably in the trash bin somewhere. But I was like, man, maybe I do know how to do this. And honestly, for the first couple of years, it was just, I really just enjoyed the therapeutic act of writing, and got lucky with some good songs here and there. And then eventually I was like, oh no, I think I know how to do this. And it's mostly just from listening, and it was a long process for sure. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I think I know how to do this.
Right. So when you're listening to other songwriters with the idea in the back of your head that you want to be a songwriter yourself, what are you listening for? Are you listening for chord changes, for lyrical things, or what kind of connects with you?
Lyrics for me is the biggest thing. Lyrics and melody. Melody is a little bit more kind of I don't know what the word would be, just something that like kind of fake. I don't know what the word would be, but just something that I kind of just like happen upon.
Right.
And I do work on melody, but lyrics for me are just rhyme and meter, just and not being cliche are the big things that I listen for, and I kind of really got into. And I think early on I was like, oh, songs can have some deep meaning to them beyond just easy listening, and that hooked me for sure.
And speaking of deep meaning, I know you have a degree in political science. So does that enter into the thing at all?
It does. It does. Nothing on the record, really. I think it does. I mean, I read a lot when I was doing that degree, and it helped. And I think a lot of time I write, if I'm angry about something politically, I'll write it, and it normally doesn't see the light of day, but it's a good exercise, and I'm sure there'll be some political song at some point. And
yeah, I mean, the only political thing I could kind of pick out of your lyric was on A Whole Lot to Tomorrow. You kind of have a mention of being still in Iraq.
yeah, there's a little bit there. It's snuck in there in a otherwise relatively happy song.
Right. So the album opens up with a tune called Late November, which you've done a little video for. Why is that at the front of the record? Tell me a little bit about the song itself, if you don't mind.
I think I have a buddy, lives in Tulsa. Maybe I can see you there next year. It seems the leaves are falling, so you won't be here for long. Darling, late November's coming on.
Yeah, Late November, I wrote, it was, I guess, 2021, and I took a solo road trip back down to my home state of Texas to see some family that we were there was a lull in COVID, and like they hadn't seen some people in a while, and I was able to, make sure I, did all the proper things to make sure I could see them, to go down and see them. And then I also was thinking about moving back down there, and I ride a lot on the road, and Late November really came from being on the road and seeing that part of the country that I hadn't seen in a long time, and kind of the big sky, wide open spaces type thing. And I just conjured up a bunch of images in my mind that I hadn't had in a while. So that's really where it came out of. And I started writing it, probably the first verse and a little bit of the chorus, kind of just the tagline, the Late November part.
Yep.
And it was kind of like, oh, this is something I don't want to mess up. I need to make sure I write this well.
Right. So when you say you don't want to mess it up, do you kind of have people around you that you bounce these things off of and go, how's this going? Where do you think it should go next?
I do, to a degree. I can be kind of stubborn. I send it to, I've always sent stuff to my brothers because they're both musical.
Right.
I send some stuff to my girlfriend now, and it's mostly just kind of like, yes or no, is this good or bad? And the kind of like, yeah. And then from there, I still keep the creative part of it to myself. I just kind of, I do need feedback, and they're great for it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your family, and you kind of had a musical family, and you also had it sounds like a bit of a religious environment growing up that was partially musical as well. And there seems to be a bit of religious imagery scattered throughout the lyrics, like through Something in the Water. So is that something you're thinking about, or is just kind of baked into you?
Yeah, Jesus loves a sinner, the rich man loves a saint. There's something in the water, I think I'm about to faint. I need a little air now, I need a little time to contemplate the difference between holiness and lying.
It's baked into me. When I was doing the demos for the record, I was listening back. I'm like, I have so many religious references in these songs, and I hadn't realized it until I listened to them all the way through. It's baked in. It really is. It's something I can't get rid of. It's which I'm thankful for. There's a lot of good imagery in the Bible. There's a lot of good stories. So I think it helps with the writing a little bit.
Now, one song that I wanted to touch on was No Reason or Right, which sounds kind of fascinating. It sounds like it might have a true story behind it. Something about a letter being written, found in 1903. So
I found an old letter in a locked toolbox in a white and weathered shed, signed JS 1903, and this is what it said. I have no right to write you now, and you have no reason to care. 25 years on the Pocono line is great most all my hair. I got a kid in Cincinnati and another's on the coast. After all these years of laying down ties, you're the one I miss the most.
Yeah, I mean, that one is honestly was just a story that I kind of I think I was probably, I think I was talking to an older gentleman at a show or a bar somewhere, and he's just talking about life, and that's kind of where the other song, Silly Little Things, came out of. But I wrote No Reason or Right around the same time, and it was just kind of thinking about life from someone else's perspective. And I had the idea of like the couple in that song for a long time, right? But it didn't feel authentic to me, I guess. So the way I was able to write myself into the song was being someone who's finding letters of them talking to each other, as opposed to just being the two characters.
Are you much of a letter writer yourself?
I do. I don't really mail letters, but I'm very much a write letters and then drop them off to somebody type of person.
Right. And I know I was just trying to reconnect myself with it's the baseball season just started, and I have Major League app on my phone now, and the Yankees were on this morning. So are you still follow baseball quite a bit?
I do. I'm a Texas Rangers fan through and through.
There you go.
Yeah, I have been since I was a kid. I remember going to a game, and I was just hooked on them. Been a bad few years though recently.
I'm sorry to hear. I lost connection here in New Zealand. The big game is rugby, which when I moved here, I was working for the TV station here, so I edited a lot of the rugby games. I had no idea what they were doing. It went for 40 minutes without a break, without a commercial break. I was like, how can you do that? But
it's entertaining though. It's
it's a great game. So, but getting back to the baseball has been a bit of fun these days, and the game has changed quite a bit. I know they're speeding it up and shifting things around.
They are. It's a different game from what I grew up playing. I mean, still the same game, but I think it'll be good for it. We'll see. I don't pretend to be an expert on it, but it's fun to watch. It's making the game shorter, which I appreciate.
I think everybody does. Now you got a couple of gigs coming up starting like tomorrow, right? Or tonight?
Yeah. Tomorrow. Yeah. Tomorrow I'm at Dee's Lounge here in Madison, Tennessee for my album release full band show. I got a buddy of mine, Daniel Parker, opening, and it's going to be a fun time. I'm excited for it. I think we'll probably get through the whole record. And then Friday, WMOT's Finally Friday. They do a show at 3rd and Lindsley here in Nashville every Friday. And so it's going to be a busy weekend.
So you got a full band that you tour with?
No. The folks who are playing on the record, or on the album tomorrow are actually the guys who played on the record. I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about that. Yeah. And then when I'm hitting the road in April, middle of April, and I'm just going solo. It should be a fun time.
Right.
A little solo tour. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to note, I like the piano playing on your record. He's a guy named,
Dane Bryant? Dane Bryant. Yeah. He's fantastic. I mean, that's another one where they were, it was great having Will there, because he was hearing piano all over the record, and I never would have done that. And it was all for the better having Dane on there. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I know. We'll take us to the last tune on the record, Silly Little Thing. He's all over that. And it's interesting. I always find it fascinating that folks who are so young are always writing about aging and death and nostalgia and all that. Yeah. And it goes way back. I mean, if you listen to the early Paul McCartney songs when he was 22, he's writing Yesterday. So what do you think it is that being that age makes you want to think about being 65 or older?
Looking back now, I'd have thought I'd left this town, find myself, and never settled down. But the kids, they come on quickly, and now I'm pushing 60, watching Barney with the grandkids playing cards when they go down.
Yeah, I think it's I don't know. I hope to make it to 65 and beyond. You know, I think it's more just wanting to be there and being able to look back at life. And I think there's something very valuable in a long life and having a lot of things to look back on. And in reality, I'm 25, so I'm pretending when I write these songs.
Sure.
I guess.
Well,
but,
yeah.
I like talking to older folks and getting their perspective on things. And my dad doesn't like it. My dad's 64, and he said 65 isn't old. He's like, "What are you talking about?" You're right, Dad. You're right.
Yeah, I think 64 is the new 44. So there you go.
I agree with that. I agree. But yeah, I think there's a lot to draw on character-wise when the character in the story or in the song is a little bit older.
Right.
Yeah.
All righty. So it's all pretty exciting. The record's out in a couple of days, and hopefully you make your way down to this part of the world, because I think you'd go over just fine. So, but
I hope so.
A lot of road to travel.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to get down there at some point.
All righty. Well, good luck with everything, and thank you for taking time to talk to me. I really appreciate it.